You're listening to DraftKings Network.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
It always makes the show better when someone is in costume. Peter Pan is with us today, and it's a sad.
Es Pedro Pan, papi.
He's a hero for our people.
Gracias.
Man.
But I don't think of him as sad. He came in here, Tony came in here today, and there's a problem because the costume in the back, it sags. It is not flattering to his ass. Peter Pan is feeling self-conscious about the fact that he doesn't look as sexy.
He looks great in that costume. I told him he looks really strong. He looks like a wrestler almost. Like a bad character wrestler, but a good, in shape wrestler. I offered to wear it. I'm glad I didn't because I wouldn't have filled it out that way.
I also didn't pick this. This was assigned to me, and then all of a sudden the costume was handed to me.
There's funny business going on, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with what's going on with the grid of death punishments, because I feel like someone, I don't know who it is throwing his weight around saying we need to do certain things, because they came up to me and they're like, so we wanted to pick out your outfit for the Tekashi 6ix9ine punishment. I go, I did not select that punishment. I will not be wearing that. Chris Whittingham selected that punishment. The fact that he quit has nothing to do with me. I didn't do that. I'm not wearing that costume. Thank you very much. And by the way, I just also say there was funny business. I won the costume contest yesterday, and they didn't want to give it to me.
That's right.
Let's bring in David Samson here because I don't know what to do about yesterday. I remain 24 hours later embarrassed by the general indifference of everyone at our company who works on camera except for Lucy. Lucy is exempted. And Jessica, by the way, would have been... I don't know why she wasn't here yesterday. I know she would have been thrilled to not a surprise to me, David, that the new people around here wore costumes and the other people have grown comfortable with making money from a video product that should be made better by wearing costumes, that nobody but the new people around here wore anything and everyone else was lazy. What do I do about that?
I did not see any sort of memo that required costumes.
Thank you.
There was in the Slack a note that said there was a costume competition in the Slack.
Right.
But was it required?
No, that seems pretty elective to me, Dan.
Me too.
That is not elective.
You need a memo for Halloween?
Honest to God.
I didn't know I reported to Cynthia.
If we did, we'd all be in trouble because, that kitchen's always dirty.
I have a solution, Dan. We need an actual org chart.
We have one. It's on our HR website.
Sort of. Yeah, we sort
Dan's
of.
my boss.
Sort of have a web. We kind of have an org chart, kind of.
It would be amazing if people knew exactly who they reported to, and when a memo was sent by your boss saying, hey, come in costume, it's not a question, it's a requirement. I think you would have gotten better participation.
But how about the idea that we have a lot of room for growth in video and DraftKings is paying us a lot of money to look good on camera? And I saw what the other shows that were trying did on camera yesterday, and we were the worst. There was no one in the country doing a national show.
Come on, that's impossible.
No, there was no one doing it.
Gojo was bad.
No one. Gojo was bad.
Terrible Macho
He
Man.
put a headband and
I
oversized
was
pit
so
viper.
much of a better Braxton Garrett.
Check it out. Hey, I'm Macho Man. How wacky.
Yes, Gojo was bad. His
You didn't
father.
poke yourself in the eye?
I did.
His father was worse.
I need to check with Cynthia if I can sue.
I thought the Fork in the Road shirt was really the highlight.
You can, Mike.
You're doing a different show than the rest of us.
Well, I was talking to Mike.
David, you're a Halloween guy. Did you dress up?
No, I'm a candy guy, not a costume
Really?
guy. I dressed up in a blazer and a shirt, and I did some MLB analysis, and I ate a lot of candy. So it was just like a normal Tuesday.
David, I do want to talk World Series, but one bit of World Series content that I saw go viral was your coverage for CBS. And I think you got lucky in that no one recognized your voice outside of fans of the show. Are you aware that you went viral over the last few days?
No, this is the first. What did I do?
So it's a very short clip. Typically, there's a little bit more context applied to these things, but you're talking about the Diamondbacks, and contextually, you're talking about the last World Series that they won. And you said,
"Are you talking about 9/11?"
Yeah. You said, hopefully history repeats itself for the Diamondbacks, not the 9/11 part. Yeah. And that went kind of viral. Your name wasn't attached to it, though, so I guess you're doing it fairly anonymously.
But why would it be? Why is that a big deal?
It's just
I want, if you're the Diamondbacks, you want history to repeat. And that was an amazing win they had in 2001 when everybody thought that New York should win. And it would have been a perfect story for them to win that particular World Series. People may remember the George Bush first pitch, etc. And the way the Yankees walked off BK Kim, Marlins fans may remember that name, one of the nicest guys we ever had. I don't know if you guys remember who that is.
No, not only do I remember it, I remember feeling terribly bad for him in that World Series because he fell into the arms of his first baseman after giving a home run up right on the middle of the field.
He gave up in 2 successive days, no less. And he was able, I knew him after, and he was able to deal with it, but it's something that will be with him. It's sort of like Buckner. But at the end of the day, the Diamondbacks came back and walked off the Yankees with another former Marlin, Luis Gonzalez, and Craig Counsell. 2 Marlins involved in that play. And guess what? That was an amazing moment. So I thought the Diamondbacks would want history to repeat itself from 01. And in the moment, while I was live on the air for CBS, I thought, well, I don't want that to be out there as a statement that I want history to repeat itself from 2001. So I said, but not the 9/11 part.
But you made it worse. I don't think people would have assumed that what you were talking.
No one would have been thinking that.
Exactly.
You made it worse. You wouldn't have gone viral or gotten into trouble at all if you had said, hopefully history repeats itself, and just not reminded anybody about anything.
He's right, though. No one wants the other part to repeat itself.
That's correct.
So he wasn't wrong in that.
But there was no reason to bring it up is the point.
Yes.
So one of my biggest issues on and off the court is that I play everything out in my head. And I assume that everyone is looking at things and thinking about things the same way I am. And it didn't pass my brain test when I said I hope history repeats itself. So that's why I felt I needed to clarify.
Do you feel,
but you're right.
Do you feel when you're talking all the time, because for those of you who want something before we start for the day, Nothing Personal goes live at 8 a.m. Also, Mike Golick and his father doing things on the DraftKings network that are worth watching because they're getting very good at the chemistry between those two.
Mike Golick and his son.
Mike Golick Jr. and his father.
Well said.
Thank you.
Dan, could you not text me between 8 and 8:45 anymore? Can we make that a rule?
No. But regardless, when you're talking for 50 straight minutes, you're spending the entire time thinking that every sentence that you're saying is going to land somewhere in a way that you have to defend yourself from the possible outcome before the next sentence?
Well, no, I've gone through that entire calculus already, and once in a while something slips through, but generally my brain is ahead of my mouth, even when I'm doing the show for 45 minutes straight every morning. And when your brain's ahead of your mouth, you're going to be okay. But once in a while, something gets a little wacky, and you say something, and then you think to yourself, wow, my brain didn't go through all the possibilities of how that could be interpreted. And all that happened during that clip on CBS.
Not just being bothered by no one around here treating Halloween seriously, I was also and have been bothered by the way that we're covering the World Series and the playoffs in general around here, because the only coverage our show has done is that nobody cares about the World Series. That is the beginning and the end of all the coverage that has happened around here. Your take on how lowly rated this World Series is what?
Sorry, I was distracted because Chris Cody's now texting me. Maybe he doesn't know there's live shows at 9. So my take is this. The ratings don't really matter too much to the broadcasters or to the league, but we have to do press releases because everyone else seems to think that ratings is the measurement. The real measurement is the revenue that you get from the networks and the value of those deals. And those deals are tremendously profitable to the teams. However, you don't like to lose out to football, which is why you try to not schedule games against football, because it's just embarrassing, but it's really doesn't factor into the amount of money that gets paid into baseball. So it's not as big a deal as you think. Ratings are down everywhere because there's just more things to do, more things to watch.
But is it an indicator that people don't actually care about the World Series, that this is a bad World Series for the average fan of sports, not the average fan of baseball?
Yeah, because you're going to have that until Game 6 or Game 7. And that's why you root for a long series, because then when you don't have the New York teams or the Boston or LA or Atlanta involved in a World Series, you need it to go long. Because once it goes long, then people will watch even if they don't care about either of the teams. And if they care about one of the teams, like in the New York-Florida World Series, people are tuning in to watch that because all you need is one. And this World Series did not have any, and that's been the problem.
David, if you were running the Mets, you mentioned Craig Counsell before. He's interested in that job. I think he's a great manager. I do. I think he's a good manager. Who would you hire as the next Mets manager?
I think they already have a deal with Craig Counsell. He's interviewing with Cleveland as a way to get leverage and to get as much money as he can out of Steve Cohen. He got it out there that the Astros would be interested in him, which is great. You want to be sought after by different networks and different people so you can get as much money as you can from the person you end up being with. And it's the same that goes for managers. They want to be sought after, so Steve Cohen gives them 4 years at $7 million a year. And the reason why it's so important is that managers have been getting paid less recently because GMs are getting more now. It's totally switched from what it used to be, but Craig Counsell wants to reverse that trend.
Would that be your hire, though?
I think that was the understanding when David Stearns was hired as president of baseball operations, that Craig Counsell and David were a package deal.
On the mound tonight are two former Marlins, Eovaldi and Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen was in the Marlins farm system involved in that Jazz Chisholm trade. I'm curious how you're going to experience tonight, and is Seager the MVP?
Seager will be the MVP of the World Series if the Rangers win. And for people who have not watched the series, the Texas Rangers, it's a fun series to watch. That's what I've enjoyed. And there's a guy right now, his name is Kettle Marte. It's a Marte Parte. He has a 20-game hitting streak in the postseason. The number of players to have ever done that in history, 0. You have a guy on the mound, Nathan Eovaldi, the former Marlin. He's one of the best postseason pitchers of all time, and he's pitching tonight. Zach Gallen, we got him for Ozuna. That wasn't me. That was Mike Hill, who did that deal after I was gone. Zach Gallen's really good, too. So it's a game worth watching, and I think the series will continue because baseball needs it to continue. You cannot start the Ohtani sweepstakes tomorrow. You've got to have more games in the World Series.
That Ozuna trade, before we get back to the World Series, but just an aside, one of the best trades in Marlins history, where you get Sandy Alcantara and you get Zach Gallen and you get other prospects. It didn't pan out, but you got a ton for Marcell Ozuna.
That was a great trade by Mike Hill doing that, getting Ozuna out and getting those guys in, phenomenal. And trading Gallen for Jazz was not a bad trade. That's a good trade for both teams. When you've got strength in pitching, you move it along to get position players.
Hey, everybody. Happy football season. It's Mike, and let me tell you what I do from kickoff to the final whistle. I have a Miller Lite in my hand. I just don't go wrong with it. I learned from experience. There is only one light beer worthy of our national obsession, because what's the point of having a beer if it doesn't taste like beer? You don't want to spend any time while you're watching football thinking about what you're drinking. And with the dependable flavor of Miller Lite, you don't have to worry about it because it's only got 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12-ounce serving. With a smooth taste and a crisp, clean finish, you'll get all the taste that you crave without the calories. A light, less filling beer that tastes great in football, there's just no topping that, folks. At least not for me. This season, do what I do. Crack open a light beer that hits your taste buds so hard, you feel it in your heart. Make it Miller time all football season long. Get Miller Lite delivered right to your door. Visit MillerLite.com/Dan, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
Don Le Batard.
Oh, I like firing people. So I take the opportunity to fire whenever I possibly can because I can use it as a learning experience for them and try to help them out and try to point out what they did wrong. But in this case, the employee was enough levels below where I was that I did not do the firing, but I had it done within moments of discovery.
I like firing people. It's just absurd. It's absurd.
Stugotz.
I'm talking about people who I fire who deserve it, who have done something that actively requires me to fire them. It is my unadulterated pleasure to do so.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
I'm wondering, David, how you feel about this, because the more this postseason goes on, the more we see people that just seem kind of like average players or just run-of-the-mill players. Like, not to say Kyle Schwarber's an average player, but Kyle Schwarber, you see that he passes Reggie Jackson in career postseason home runs. Then you see something like Corey Seager last night. They put up a stat, 77 games for him, 77 games for Reggie Jackson, 19 home runs for him, 18 home runs for Reggie Jackson, 48 RBI each. Reggie October was viewed as like this postseason legend. And now you have guys this postseason that everyone's just catching up to what he did. So there's great postseason performances going on that we're just missing out on and thinking Reggie Jackson was so much better than them.
Before you answer that, David, would you have fined me for calling him Reggie October? I like Reggie October better than Mr. October. I'm just
Yes,
curious.
I would have.
Okay, just making sure.
I have never heard anyone say Reggie October.
I like
I'm
it.
overworked,
Look, if he had legally changed his name to Reggie October, everyone would have been fine with it.
We should do a top 5 list, but I can only think of one of the greatest name changes of all time, and it starts and stops with "World Be Free."
I mean, I like Mark Super Duper changing his name to Super.
What did Ron Artest? Didn't Ron Artest change his name?
Meta World
Peace.
Good one.
Chad Ochocinco also.
Classic.
Yeah.
And Leo Nunez, I believe.
But we're not
but
going to
that
do
was
that top
forced.
5 list today.
What was Billy's question?
I don't know.
It's a good point he's making.
What about Derek
catching up.
November?
I'm going to answer
It's
that,
basically
Dan.
Reggie October is overrated, basically, is what we're getting down to.
You have to remember that there's more rounds of playoffs. So when you're seeing, you can't compare it now to back then. You would go right to the LCS, sometimes right to the World Series. Now you can have wild card, then division series, then LCS, then World Series. So you have way more at bats and more opportunities to hit home runs. So what Kyle Schwarber did, it's amazing. The number of home runs he hits from the left side. That's the record you're referring to. But you should try to look at what the number of games are, number of at-bats that it took to accomplish what these guys are accomplishing.
Well, Corey Seager's the exact same number of games, 77 games, both of them, and he has the exact stats. He has one more home run and same RBI. So it's more to note that what is being done now in present day by seemingly average guys, not that Corey Seager's average, but just guys that we don't view as legendary and necessarily Hall of Famers moving forward, are putting up great performances in the postseason. People are just missing out on it because they're not watching as much.
Do you not view Corey Seager as a superstar? He got $325 million, and he's actually been worth it. He won the MVP in 20 for the Dodgers, and he could win the MVP in 23 with the Rangers. That's getting into pretty historic territory.
Yeah, but I don't think that in the grand scheme of things, he's going to be remembered as Reggie Jackson was.
It's just different times. I think there's more people younger in the demographic we're looking for who know Corey Seager than know Reggie Jackson.
Mike Ryan whispered in my ear because he couldn't believe what you said. Nathan Eovaldi is one of the best postseason pitchers of all time.
Ridiculous.
8-3 with an ERA of 3.30 with 77 strikeouts in his postseason career, 16 starts. Does that indeed make him?
I mean, that's not sub 3. I was taking David for what he said on surface value, but those stats don't seem like greatest postseason pitcher conversation.
I think what I said, one of the greatest, not the greatest.
I mean, you got to be sub 3 to enter the
One of
conversation.
the 50 greatest, I mean.
Yeah,
I don't-
that's not that good.
Exactly. I didn't say the number.
Well, but I don't think anybody is saying Nathan Eovaldi has been good
But that's
during
wild.
the postseason, but I
Those
don't
numbers
think
are good.
anyone thinks of him as one of the greatest postseason pitchers of all time.
Eovaldi is one of the top 100 postseason pitchers of all time.
He doesn't
There
make
you
the
go.
staff. He doesn't make the all postseason staff.
You could have just said he's one of the postseason pitchers of all time.
Billy, do you realize that when you say Reggie Jackson, it's the reason Reggie Jackson gets to be Reggie October is because there were only 3 networks and all of America was gathered around the television to watch him hit a third home run off of Charlie Huff.
Well, don't get me started on Babe Ruth, because the only reason Babe Ruth is this legend is because no one actually saw him play. Don't get me started on him.
Wait a second. We glossed over something. David, you said Major League Baseball needs more games. Major League Baseball needs a lot of things. They don't always get them. Are you suggesting some sort of fixes in here?
Oh,
It's not a fix, and we've covered that, Stu. I think that it's very clear what they want. You don't want this series to end in 5 because if you get to a 6th game, you get news on the off day, which is Thursday, and then you get more news Friday, and that gets you into the weekend. So I think it's very important for the Diamondbacks to win tonight, and I think that you will see the umpiring has been inconsistent. There's no question about it. It has been, in some cases, dreadful, the home plate ball strike calls. So I think that it's not out of the question that baseball and umpires and the teams, everyone knows what you'd prefer. Does it always happen that way? No. There's series that end in 5. If Seager and Simeon continue to hit the way they're hitting, and they have a 5-run second inning and a 5-run third inning, there's nothing anyone can do, and the series is going to end tonight. I just don't think it will. I think the Diamondbacks, in fact, will win tonight.
You've generally been pro all these changes that baseball has made, but in the Diamondbacks, while I was paying attention to the sport over the summer, I think you could objectively call them not a great team. They slither into the playoffs because of a lot of help because of a drop ball in the outfield by the Chicago Cubs. They can win tonight, and they've been hard to kill in this postseason. What I'm getting at is this would potentially be, if they come back in this series and win it, would be regarded as the worst World Series champion of all time, and you would squarely have the playoff expansion to blame. How is this being reacted to by some of the guardians and gatekeepers of the game, the Bob Costases of the world?
Well, Bob Costas, that's an example of a total traditionalist. But remember when the Cardinals won the World Series and they had an 84-win season with Pujols, maybe 2006, somewhere in that range? Were you feeling that same way?
No, but the playoffs have changed since then, haven't they?
So, yes, they've expanded, which has been great for the sport because it keeps more cities in it longer. That's the purpose of expanded playoffs, is to make it so that people are going to games. And attendance was up significantly this year as an industry. And I don't want to sound like I'm pimping for baseball, but I will say the rule changes have helped. The game times are down. The games are more interesting. Arizona plays a fun kind of game where they're stealing bases. They put the game in motion, which is fun to watch. Calling them the worst World Series champion, I guess there's 123 World Series champions. Someone's got to be the worst team. If you're saying it's them, I guess we could evaluate that. But hey, a ring's a ring. I don't think that Arizona getting its second ring before Tampa has one or Colorado has one in terms of some expansion teams and matching Florida's two, I don't think that they will be worried that you think they're the worst champion.
I don't think they're the worst. I'm just saying in terms of record and because of an expanded playoff, they would not be in previous incarnations of the MLB playoffs. I'm saying how people view them. I don't care enough to have that kind of opinion about the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Well, the Diamondbacks, though, and David, sorry to cut you off, they early in the summer were neck and neck with the Braves for the best record in baseball in the National League. Like, they were hot, and then they hit a very cold stretch, and they kind of fell out of it.
16-34 over a stretch.
They had a very cold stretch, but like if you do that in terms of playoff expansion, and you wouldn't be in former incarnations, then the Marlins would have 0 World Series. They'd have 0 playoff appearances. If you go back to the original, there's 2 teams that make it to the postseason in each league, and then they compete against each other, and then they go to the World Series. So, like, as the game expands and the playoffs expand, you're going to get more and more things, and it's easy every year. The Phillies wouldn't have been the National League champions last year either had there not been playoff expansion. So every time the playoff expands, you're going to find an outlier team that ends up making it to the World Series and potentially winning, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they shouldn't be there. They're not deserving. They did what they had to by the rules of the game at the time.
David seems to agree, even though he has been silenced by you. You've left him speechless by the way that you laid that out. He has no rebuttals. Let's move on to other subjects. The general manager and the coach overnight of the Raiders have been let go. Josh McDaniels was signed for 4 more years. That seems like wild mismanagement. That group of people gave Jimmy Garoppolo $72 million. What were your thoughts of how poorly handled that was? And it's not even the worst football story of the day in terms of mismanagement. ESPN just released a story about how toxic the work environment is with the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, that's been going on with Bidwell. That's a major problem they have there. I just would ask what took till 10 o'clock local time to fire the coach and GM, and then you waited an hour to release a statement of who the interim would be, and then you waited another hour to release a third statement of who the interim GM would be. All the guys I fired, we had a replacement like that. We would do the firing and the hiring same moment. We once had a manager waiting in the wings and come right out after we did our firing press conference. That was my favorite, when they can pass right there. One guy's out, one guy's in. What's Mark Davis doing? The trade deadline was 4 p.m., and it took 6 hours to say, oh, I guess we got to placate Adams and make a firing here. I was not happy with the time of day.
Do you realize how happy you sounded about firing a manager and having him walk past the new manager? Like, do you?
It was coordinated. It was like a ballet.
but an evil one, a one that if you don't care about people and enjoy firing people.
It's not something that should bring a smile to your face.
The family of the guy who's hired. Do you think Antonio Pierce's family isn't happy that McDaniels got canned? I happen to disagree. Freddie's family was plenty happy.
That's not what we were talking about. We were just talking about your joy at firing somebody and having someone waiting in the wings to replace him.
Would you rather be me or you, Dan, who's never willing to fire anybody and will just take lack of performance as an okay given and maybe it'll change? Which would you rather have?
Well, clearly the one I'd rather have is the company that I have because it's the thing that I've chosen. And you're no longer working in baseball doing it that way.
Jeez.
David, how many people have you fired? How many people?
I don't know. In France, there's a thing when you smoke cigarettes. Hey, how many cigarettes do you smoke a day? And they say we do not count what we love.
I heard in France there's lots of bed bugs right now, too. Mm-hmm. Not related, but...
I just liked how pissed David was about the time of day. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah.
I was not happy about the time of day.
Yeah, late at night.
Grew in different circumstance, but I believe that also happened at an odd time. It turns out that Mark Davis is a bit odd.
Let's
Just a night owl, maybe.
Let's review some movies here. What do you got for us today?
In the next 25 seconds, I need to review the last Nicolas Cage movie. And I need to understand what's happening. It's called The Retirement Plan. Nicolas Cage plays this past hitman or mob guy who's in the Cayman Islands, and then Ashley Greene comes as his long-lost daughter who he's never seen, and all of a sudden he's got to save her from being killed, or he's going to be killed, and it is the most ridiculous plot, the most ridiculous movie, and I felt so sorry for Nicolas Cage. Pass on it. Don't watch it. 9-8. It's a joke. 5-4. Pass.
I videoed that trailer and sent it to all my friends.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is brought to you by KFC's new hot and spicy wings. Get fired up this fantasy season with 8 pieces of spicy marinated hand-breaded wings for just $4.99. Are you kidding me? They're a can't-miss call for whatever the fantasy gods throw your way. In the midst of a managerial hot streak, keep it rolling with KFC's new hot and spicy wings. Did you just assemble the worst lineup in fantasy history? Who cares? You can get 8 KFC new hot and spicy wings for $4.99 right now. Marinated in spice, hand-breaded to perfection. KFC's new hot and spicy wings are here. 8 pieces for just $4.99. It's finger-licking good.
Dan Le Batard.
We got Afrini Hardaway.
Afrini? Who is Afrini Hardaway?
I was trying to read fast. UD was on the team. Luke Jackson. Bobby Jones. The Matrix, Shawn Marion.
Stugotz.
Zoe, Shaq, Smush Parker. Chris Quinn.
Wait a minute.
D. Wade.
Wait a minute.
Jason Williams, Darrell Wright. I mean, stacked roster.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
I have just sent our video team, we will have it momentarily, Stugotz. I've just sent them the retirement plan trailer for Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage, I believe, he has to, more than anyone in Hollywood, correct? Any star. And I think he's still A-list. He has to be still A-list, even though he makes a lot of stinkers. No one makes half as many movies as he does, correct? Like, if you had to guess... Who
At the end, Bruce Willis was kind of being forced out there to do a bunch while he still could.
Yep.
You are correct on that. They were abusing Bruce Willis in a deteriorating mental state.
Allegedly.
Well, I mean, it was just obvious. There were reports that they were feeding him his lines through an earpiece because he was having trouble. He was having mental issues.
Now Mel Gibson appears to be in a lot of movies. He really does. Like,
yes.
He's in every movie.
Well, again, these are people who were getting a lot of work. I don't know. Nicolas Cage's spending habits are famously crazed, and also there were tax issues as well. So he has to make a certain number of movies just to pay for all the skulls that he has from pirates and stuff.
To be clear, Bruce Willis is suffering from a type of dementia that made it very difficult to process words.
Correct. Sorry, I should have been more gentle there, but it did seem there were reports that people were sort of milking what was left. The reason that you have so many movies where he's either not standing or holding a gun, like he's being...
The other side of the coin was Bruce Willis also knew that he wanted to leave more for his family, too. And while not the roles he used to do, took these for the money.
Nicolas Cage has first ballot Hall of Famer in this respect, and we will get to that trailer in a second. But before we do so, Tony is claiming, and I don't, Peter Pan over there,
Pedro Pan.
sad Pedro Pan is claiming that he has a nominee for the best commercial jingle ever.
Really?
We need a car, truck or van. We need a car, Rudy.
So, Dan, this came about because last night was Halloween, obviously. I was going trick-or-treating with the kiddos, and every house that has, a good display also has scary-themed Halloween music. And a staple to every scary Halloween music is Ghostbusters. So as I hear the riff, da-na-na-na, da-na, all of a sudden my brain doesn't listen Ghostbusters. It hears truck or van.
Really, Maroon? You've watched so much. You've watched so much local sports. You've watched so much local sports that you believe the greatest commercial jingle of all time is simply a stolen song that is something that represents the laziest kind of music ever
How'd
made.
they get away with this?
We need a car, truck or van. We need a car, Rudy.
I'm with Tony
great,
on this.
yeah.
Not on how great it is. How did they get away with this?
Well,
it's the question I'm asking.
that campaign also sneaky had like another level of confusion to it where Dan Marino was in all the commercials. So then it was really confusing because it's like Ghostbusters, Marooney, Marino.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the same name? Is it a different thing? And at that time, every time there was a call to the bullpen, the song was playing.
The
And it was
Marooney call to the pen.
confusing. It was a crazy time.
Not to go all music nerd on you, but the whole big deal about the original Ghostbusters song was Huey Lewis sued Ray Parker because he felt like the song was stolen from I Want a New Drug.
Wow.
How did he get away with that?
Ray Parker Jr.?
All of it.
Dan Marino?
Marooney.
They don't know.
Maroonies.
Dan, they don't know. So it's a car dealership that used to be Marooney, now Auto Nation. Now I don't know if it's something else or not. but-
DRVPNK.
Yeah, right. Drive pink. So it was that, and for whatever reason, they just had a commercial jingle on local radio 24/7. They would just play banana, banana.
I will continue to ask the question publicly until someone gets me an answer. I don't think I can just have a commercial now on local television where I steal a famous song and make it something that sells my shit. I don't think that's allowed. I think you're right. But car dealerships in Miami have a whole undercurrent of...
They had to pay licensing, guys.
To who?
They didn't have to.
To Ray Parker to then pay Huey Lewis?
To Ray
Lewis.
Parker so he could pay
To the
Huey
news.
Lewis?
Yes, the news. Speaking of cars, Lucy was almost hit by one again in
That
Miami.
seems like a weird tone to take
This
when
is
delivering that news.
This is
Speaking of cars, I made it
van.
out.
Who you gonna call?
We need a car,
I was there with you, Tony.
truck or van.
Waiting on you, Stu.
We need a car, Rudy.
Why does this keep happening to you, Lucy?
I don't, because it's not me.
Why, are you
I-
looking both ways?
I look both ways, Don't and victim
Oh,
I
um,
blame.
oh,
had the little walk sign. I had the right of way.
That means nothing, though, in fairness. Yeah.
I learned that the
I
hard
blow
way.
through that all the time.
Don't do that. You're
Sorry.
going to kill me one day. I was just going on my little walk. I was so happy because it wasn't 1,000 degrees out. I could go for my walk. I have the right of way, so I'm going. I have the little walk guy, and someone comes, and they're turning left, and they see me, and instead of stopping, they speed up. They're like, yeah, we're going to do it. And he almost hits me, and I go like this because I feel like my life matters a little bit, and he shouldn't have hit me. And he just goes, he shrugs. He's like, sorry.
Yep.
Didn't hit you. Got so close. So close.
What kind of car?
It was not nice.
Truck or van.
If you get hit by a car and like that's the end, not to bring this to a morbid place, but like, do you guys have a selected car that you'd want to be the one to finish you off?
What?
I'm just curious.
Not to,
an
not to.
autonomous vehicle.
Yeah, I don't
bring
That's
it
how
to
I
a
want to
Yeah.
go.
If it was a car with like an Alabama bumper sticker, I'd be like, yeah, that fits.
I want a truck.
accurate.
I do. Or a van.
Or van,
I
yeah.
want a truck, though, because I want to know that I'm dead. Like, that's it.
Know that I'm dead?
No, and quickly. I want to
Yeah.
go, and I want to go quickly.
You want no
Yes.
question.
Yeah, just flatten me.
I almost got hit by those little trolley buses.
Oh,
and
that's an embarrassing way to go,
That
though.
would have just I think because I would have just been dead.
Yeah, but yeah,
Just
a
right
trolley,
away,
like
dead.
killed
But
by
they
a
do
trolley.
go
You're
really
like,
slow.
Driverless, you get to
He was
sue a
going
big
fast when it was
corporation
hit me.
posthumously.
Yeah.
Leave it a little nest egg, Bruce Willis style.
I think Billy might have this right. It's not necessarily the embarrassment of just dying and getting stuck in the visuals of a trolley, but those move so slowly that the last judgment made on you before the final judgment is, man, that person didn't move very quick.
You have hours to get out of the way.
There can't be a lot of trolley deaths.
That's like
got
train
hit.
deaths. It's on a track. Like, come on. Like, that's
You
the
see
worst
it
way to
coming.
go. Yeah.
Wait, what happened, Lucy?
When I almost got hit by the trolley bus a few weeks ago, or probably a couple months ago, that thing was going very fast. That was the problem because it wasn't like slowing down for the turn. And once again, I had the right of way and it kept going. Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
No, you
not in
don't.
this
That's
state.
not. That is.
You don't.
that's
You do
how
not
it
have the
should
right of
be.
No,
way.
I'm
but it
afraid
is.
to
I don't even
drive
know what that
and
means.
walk
You
here.
have every right in Florida except the right of way, apparently, as a pedestrian.
Not
Okay.
every right.
I just don't know how I'm supposed to get around because I can't drive because everyone's too aggressive and it makes me scared, and I can't walk because I'm afraid I'm going to get hit by a car
You
every
shouldn't
day.
walk anywhere here. That's why it's so hot. It's really a safety thing. Like, you think the heat is bad for your health, but it's really saving lives, the heat, because it's preventing people from getting hit by cars. If you choose a car, a Chrysler Neon, if you get killed by a Chrysler Neon, that's bad.
No, you want a city vehicle, and you want your family to be able to win that settlement money. And Mike is right. It's all about the nest egg. Yeah.
Parasail is how you should get from place to place.
Well,
in
watch out for sperm whales.
South Florida. Not just sperm whales. I had a friend of a friend actually got hit with a fisherman's hook while parasailing the other day in his face. It's one of the most horrific
The other
photographs
day?
I've ever
Lehman
seen.
is
Yeah.
very sorry, by the way.
Yeah, it wasn't very long ago, and the pictures on his face. Obviously, can you imagine? The whole thing sounded totally horrifying to me because he got dragged underwater by a fishing hook.
Whoa!
Hold on a second. Wait, hold on.
Big-ass hook.
Your friend was parasailing in the air. Someone hooked him,
Friend of a friend.
reeled him in, and then he went underwater.
Starting to
Did the
take
guy
off.
like hold him up after he dragged him onto the boat and take a picture?
Hold on, I'm gonna get the
Are
picture.
you calling the friend or the friend of the friend?
I'm gonna get
pictures.
I'm gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna find the
friend Len
picture.
Pasquarelli with those jowls?
If you catch a human when you're fishing, do you toss him back into the ocean or just let him stay on land?
You got to
No,
measure him
it's
first.
taco night.
Yeah, you got to measure him first.
I have a nominee for a better jingle, and it kind of everyone knows the Chili's baby back ribs, but there's a video that's circulating the web right now of the raw recording of it, and it's just as good as you remember, even better.
I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back,
Chili's baby back ribs.
I want my baby back,
Chili's baby back ribs.
barbecue sauce. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back,
Chili's baby back ribs.
I want my baby back,
Chili's baby back ribs. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. I want my baby back ribs.
Believe all those guys were black?
slightly better than the Marooney jingle.
A little,
That's
okay,
certain.
I will capitulate.
Well, come on.
So good, man.
All right, I want all of you now to look at the screens here so that you can see how terrible this movie is with Nicolas Cage. This is the incentive trailer to watch it. This is everyone in America gather around your devices. You want to watch Nicolas Cage's latest? Here he is in the retirement plan.
I haven't seen my daughter, and now her daughter shows up at my front doorstep with not a word.
I think my parents are in some kind of trouble.
Oh, Ashley's in trouble. What is it this time?
Get on that flight and do not come back without my hard drive.
Purpose for your visit?
Pleasure. Lay low for a few minutes. Welcome to the island. I'm losing my patience. Oh, no!
Boom! Kills him. I just got out of there with my life.
Did you shoot me?
I guarantee you there's more men that are already coming. And they will not stop until we are all dead.
Come on, Ashley. Ashley, go make
Who are you?
The old guy, he keeps killing everybody. Everybody.
is this guy?
My dad's an assassin, isn't he?
Yeah, your dad's totally an assassin.
Here, have some more syrup, sweetheart.
I am so there.
That looks awesome.
Yeah,
that looks awesome.
You put a flare gun in someone's mouth.
Ernie Hudson.
Anytime you have
Full
to say,
circle.
who is this guy? The unsuspecting guy who can kick your ass and kill you? Oh, it's great.
I love it. He looks like Jamaican Paul.
Walks in Akuda's after.
Manny Puig.